Our next session is on IoT security, will be delivered by Jairam, having the call sign N2RJ. So without any further delay, I would like to request Ria to come on stage and share your vision about this.
I'm going to try to, I don't think I could top any of these presentations that happened this morning. I'm going to try to keep the time, using all my IoT devices. Okay, so I am Ria, call sign N2RJ, and very honored to be here at HAMFEST India, and along with my other American friend, Steve there. His presentation was top-notch, so I could do as good as him. Anyway, we're going to talk about IoT, security risks and countermeasures. Today, we have the Internet of Things, which basically means that everything is connected to the Internet. Okay. And usual disclaimer, you can read, I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody except myself. All right, let's tell you a little bit about me. I got started out, I used to work for Fujitsu in my original country of Trinidad and Tobago. I did a lot of telephone PBX testing. I did a lot of, takeover of malicious websites, stuff like that, firewalls, Unix, Linux. I was a Linux admin for a long time. Ham radio. I actually originally gave this lecture at New York University in the US, which is my undergrad alma mater. So what I do now, I do application security, I do cloud security, I do security governance, I do ham radio, of course. I do ham renewable energy and IoT security for renewables. All right, so what is IoT? So the Internet of Things is a network of physical devices, vehicles, appliances, other objects embedded with sensors, software, network, connectivity, allowing them to collect and share data. That's a lot of words to just say that how everything is connected to the Internet now. It's not exactly a new concept. When I worked at Fujitsu, we had a project where we had a refrigerator that had a Cat5 cable that connected to the Internet at the time. And then what you would do is, as you put in a jug of milk, scan, and then as it's finished, provided the kids don't do it because the kids don't remember to do things, but the kids are good. You scan it on the way out, it goes to online place, and then a truck, a van, or whatever would come with new supplies every few weeks. So it was a nice concept. I don't think they actually went through with it fully, but they ended up, doing things. But there's a lot of security risks in this type of service, and we'll discuss some of them too. Here I'm at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, Nevada. You can see a number of IoT devices here. You have a car, you have an electric vehicle charger. Lincoln Electric, they make welders, but they make EV chargers now. You have a cat feeder to feed all these cats you see around Kolkata. You see an electrical panel here, right? So let's talk about the architecture. You have several layers. You have the application layer, you have a data processing layer, you have a network layer and a sensing layer. Essentially, the application layer does the smart applications management, and the data processing layer does the processing decisions, AI these days. Network layer, they take all the data and send it wherever it needs to go, and the sensing layer is like where it all starts, where the the information about the outside world comes in. And then you could also do it in 5 layers. You also add the business layer, which essentially, is like the business use case for all of this. All right, so the perception layer, the sensing layer, you have here a Nest thermostat. You have, it collects data from the environment, light, sound, temperature. You have wired or wireless protocols that transmit this data, such as Wi-Fi or Bluetooth and others. You have the network layer, so it sends data to or from the middleware layer. You see a lot of devices using cellular, in particular 5G, and Wi-Fi, infrared, believe it or not, power line communications, Z-Wave, Thread, and Zigbee, all sorts of wireless communication. Then middleware, data processing layer, does storage, computation, processing, decisions, AI. Application layer, and this here is from my car's charging stats. They have the user interface, the data visualization analytics. So here you could see that I use a lot of electricity and save a lot of money on petrol. Okay, so what are the risks? So compared to like a general purpose computing device, like a laptop or even like a mobile phone, you have a different attack surface. So the attack surface is, you know, where the attackers can initially gain entry into the network or the device. You have physical sensors, right? You have, you know, different things where they can get in. They don't necessarily have to connect over the network. Wireless communication, Wi-Fi, in particular, cameras or imaging. You have voice assistants are particularly troublesome. You have Alexa and Google and Apple, Siri and more. And this is one of the dangers of voice assistants, where you have a guest that comes in your home and says, Alexa, thanks for inviting us. Order 2 tons of cream corn and have it delivered and confirm purchase. Okay? And the moral of that story is they did that to test whether they have an always-on smart speaker listening. But this can be used maliciously by people to do all sorts of things. You know, on my radio show, I have to be careful when I tell people to listen to us on Alexa that I spell her name and I don't say her name because it'll trigger people's devices. So let's talk about the attack surface. And this could facilitate all sorts of different attacks. This here, anybody could guess what this is intended to do? Okay, so normally a malicious attacker, they do something called a SQL injection attack, which is where they, in the input of an application, they would send a piece of code that's actually like a SQL statement in a database, right? So it would send some database command. Well, this one is more like, you know, this guy is preparing this for a speed camera, so the automatic speed camera. But instead of, he covered his license plate, his number plate, and he put here the number plate at 00, semicolon, and then dropped the database of everybody's speeding tickets, because not all heroes wear capes. So what the moral of the story is that even though the attack surface is even though the input to this IoT device, which is a speeding camera, is not the traditional keyboard or other input device, it takes imaging from the camera, and you still have to do techniques like you need to sanitize your input and guard against malicious attacks like this. I don't know if it worked. All right, so you have more risks. You have the risk of botnets if devices become compromised. They could be used for distributed denial of service, not only facilitate, but also be victims of. Insecure storage and data transfers, so if devices are, you know, transferring data, you want to make sure that they use proper encryption. For data at rest, data stored on the device, or even data stored on the cloud, or data in transit, which is the data being transmitted over the network. Insecure defaults. This is a big one. We're going to go into this a little later. Yep, no, AI-based attacks. So AI is used to facilitate attacks. You have insecure user interfaces. And even some of these hardware, they have hard-coded, outdated, insecure things. And then finally, you have ransomware, which is more of a threat on the back-end service, but could render your device inoperative. In particular, a device that requires an internet connection to work. So like I said, many of the same countermeasures apply. You want to definitely do the input sanitization. You want to make sure that you're not just taking raw input and passing it directly to a program and trust it all as well. You want to apply some checks to that, like when you're doing SQL injection, you want to filter out like special characters and stuff like that. Or you also want to use something called a stored procedure, which is where instead of passing the SQL statement command directly to your database, you pass a command that says run the stored procedure, so that you're not passing raw SQL, because that lessens your chance of attack. It gives you like a buffer, right? Of course, you have physical hardening too, right? Some common sense. You have locks that you can use. Encryption is very important. Make sure you're using strong ciphers for encryption. No TLS 1.1 anymore. And make sure you have the cloud security, and make sure your AAAs are good. And of course, you apply the principle of least privilege, which means that you only give enough privileges to do what you need to do and no more. All right, let's talk about other privacy implications. So cameras and smart speakers are especially concerning. You have the cloud storage of recordings can pose privacy risks, particular, if you say something at home and Alexa picks it up, that could be used, attackers could do that, could take that, and then if they retrieve all those recordings, something could happen. You have other devices like speed in your connected car, driver profiling behavior, energy usage, depending on what you have connected, like your car or your home electric panel. Network information. One device I actually analyzed stored all the Wi-Fi passwords in clear text. So all you had to do was just log in via IP address and you're able to get everybody's Wi-Fi password. And consider always a malicious insider. These are the malicious insiders. So apparently this car company took recordings from cameras and they were sharing them around inside and outside. So, you have to definitely weigh whether you're going to trust people with, getting these devices like cameras and stuff inside your home. All right, so in the United States, we have NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, that actually does the security standards. They have a new special publication called 800-213, which is an IoT cybersecurity guidance for the federal government. But a lot of private organizations are now using this to formulate their cybersecurity program. And the main thing is that they start off saying, well, first of all, do you really need this IoT device on your network? Right? Because the most secure device is one that doesn't exist. What sort of data is collected? You only collect the minimum necessary. In what technologies will the data be stored and how will it be transmitted? And what geographic areas? You have data residency. I don't know about the laws in India, but I know like in the European Union that they require data for European Union citizens for a lot of things to stay in the European Union. In China, they're very strict about that. Things that they want data to stay in China. So I would imagine India has some regulations like that too. And what third parties will data from or about the IoT device be stored and shared? Okay. Vehicles are especially problematic too. You have not only with the attack surface, but also what a vehicle can do in terms of if it's compromised, right? Some cars have Linux and Windows operating systems, and they have vulnerable systems like CAN bus. There are people who actually, in Canada, it's a big problem now, where people are stealing cars. They're using software-defined radios, or they even plug it into the headlights, and they can remotely compromise a car and steal that car, and that car ends up, on a container ship to I don't know where. But there have been several proof of concept, like hackers killed a Jeep on a highway. Scary stuff, right? It's happened in St. Louis. Honda had, and this is not necessarily the realm of IoT, but it's in the realm of a hardware device where Honda used key fobs that didn't have rolling codes, and then what happened is they ended up getting their own CVE, so their own listing of a tech vulnerability, security vulnerability, because people could easily use weak key fobs and steal cars. Right? So Honda has its own CV. Okay, and this is details about CV here, 2012 Honda Civic. So a lot of car manufacturers are actually doing the right things, right? A lot of them have bug bounties. Tesla has some. The other manufacturers, they put a lot of money into security research programs. I actually spoke to people at Volvo Cars. They're doing a lot of security research. There's open source tools are now available for exploiting cars and doing security testing called CAN tools. Linus Torvalds, the inventor of Linux, is now the Linux Foundation, and he's based in the US now. and they have something called automotive grade Linux, and they have a lot of security things doing with that. So they have a security white paper that addresses some of the security issues in cars. Ham radio, HackRF is used popularly to use, in particular they use it for replay attacks and relay attacks where the key fob hanging up on your door could be used remotely by a guy wearing a software-defined radio and an antenna, and he walks around the house, finds a signal, relays it to the car, starts the car and drives out, and then, the car is gone in 60 seconds. All right, let's talk about ransomware. So ransomware attacks are becoming way more popular. If you were at my talk yesterday, I talked about the ARL in ransomware. Some of it's state-sponsored because this is a new realm of electronic warfare, right? IoT devices are especially vulnerable, particularly the back-end infrastructure. One attack can cripple lots of devices, and you not only have home IoT devices, but also critical infrastructure like water, gas, electric. Colonial Pipeline in the US got hit with ransomware. Their gasoline, petrol pipeline, they had to shut down. Hospitals, healthcare facilities, all sorts of data. They lose data about patients and all sorts of stuff collected from IoT sensors. You go to the doctor's office these days, they're not writing stuff in a chart. They plug in something via Bluetooth, and they get all your vitals and everything fed into the matrix. It's unreal. Here I have some from Trend Micro describing that. I'll probably drop this in a WhatsApp too, so if you're in a WhatsApp, you'll see it. So some steps that organizations can take to defend against ransomware: update and patch, employee secure authentication, least privilege. If you don't need privilege to do it, don't give it out. Backups, make sure you have backups. A lot of what happened to the data world could have been avoided if they had better backups. Make sure you have strong network protection, right? And IoT devices you don't trust, put them in a separate network and monitor the traffic. Security over connectivity, not everything needs to be connected. Advocate shared responsibility, so organizations need to advocate for a culture of security, especially with regard to IoT. And this is especially important. Security starts with culture. You have to ingrain it into people. If nobody takes security seriously, it does not happen. And you have to foster that. You make things where people could, avail themselves of technology, but you have to make sure that security is everyone's responsibility. So I'll put this link as well. Critical infrastructure, the power grid, and then now in the US, I see on Google Maps you have a lot of solar panels here. In India and the US, we have a lot of solar and home batteries now that connect to the power grid. We have a lot of operation technology. We have things like application programming interfaces, APIs and stuff being exposed. Things like substations, power stations, nuclear power plants are connected now. Telecommunications, of course, water and wastewater, and I'll show you something, and fuel, oil, gas. One particular example here, this is from CISA, our cyber defense agency. The Unitronics had used PLCs used in water and wastewater systems, and there was active exploitation. No doubt that this was exploited by state-sponsored actors because they're always looking for ways to commit electronic warfare. So the cyber threat actors affected device, a Unitronics Vision Series PLC, programmable logic controller. There's like a controller for water valves and stuff like that. It's really stupid because the main thing that they got in was the engineers and technicians installed devices. They did not change the password from 1111. So like I said, it goes back to a culture of security. You have to have this culture that, you can't just leave the defaults as working, it's done. You have to make sure it's secure. And then backups, and then, they have some other things about changing network configuration and stuff like that. So I have a link here from CISA. They issued a bulletin here about the PLCs. And the first mitigation, of course, is disconnect it. Pull it out, okay? If it's compromised, disconnect it right away, and then you deal with the fallout afterwards. Okay? And, okay. All right, so this is a broader picture, and we're coming to the end. More devices become connected, but do we really need this connectivity? You know? And we talk about the most secure device is one that doesn't exist, okay? We should be a little more judicious, you know? We live in the age of AI and everything always on, always connected, but do we need this? Some of it is necessary, a lot of it is not. So we probably need to evaluate that. It's complex national security issue as well too, no matter what the country, right? If you want a strong India, you want a strong US or a strong other country, you need to make sure that it's secure because other adversaries are coming for you in the cyber realm. You definitely need to educate people, but it can only go so far. This is why you need qualified security professionals, and I'm hoping that some of you are considering a career in security. If you want to talk about a career in security, I've been like 25 years in security, you can talk to me, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, and finally, IoT is an ecosystem, right? Especially, and you need to secure all parts of the ecosystem. The devices, the cloud, the network, the software, user education, corporate responsibility, you know, and public policy as well. I hope you found this helpful, and thank you for coming to my talk.